Okay, we're live on YouTube.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, so I will call to order the administrative adjustment hearing for March 21st, 2023. Just quickly, the process for each hearing case, it will be a presentation by staff, followed by, if I have any questions of staff, followed by the applicant providing a report and comments, and then staff having a chance to rebut that those statements, and then a rebuttal by the applicant. So it follows the same procedure as a Board of Zoning Appeals special or variance request. So with that, let's start with the first case, 2302, an application by Martin Rickel from Land Carroll Services, Inc., representing their client, Main Street 3 LLC, requesting approval of 3 administrative adjustments for 404 Malcolm Drive, Westminster, Maryland, 20157. And Andrea, if you could proceed, please. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Before I
swearing
proceed,
everybody in and
I do have to swear everybody in. So anybody that is planning to speak or provide evidence or testimony, if you could raise your right hand, please. And repeat that. Confirm, do you swear that the evidence you shall give in this administrative adjustment case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Noah,
Yes.
here and hit off this tee. And then you're going to go over here and back up Noah. But you're going to be way in the back, almost by that shed.
Something else has happened in the background. Okay, Andrew, now if you could proceed, please.
Sure. An application by Martin Rickel from Land Carroll Services, Inc., representing Main Street 3 LLC, requested the approval for 3 administrative adjustments for 404 Malcolm Drive. One is for zoning ordinance section 164-45-5, section A, number 4, to allow for a reduction of the required minimum parking lot setbacks of 5 feet from the adjacent lot. Number 2, zoning ordinance section 165-115D3, to allow for a reduction of 3 feet from the required 25 feet drive aisle width in the proposed parking garage. And number 3, zoning ordinance 164-11A, to allow for more than 0.1 foot candles of light beyond the property line onto areas buffered by woods. The applicant is requesting the administrative adjustment to request a 40,000 square foot medical building at 404 Malcolm Drive. We received this application on July 28th. 2002. It was submitted to the Department of Community Planning and Development, and the subject property is zoned business, and the property is owned by Main Street 3 LLC. The applicant is proposing a 40,000 square foot medical center. The property was previously the Army Reserve Armory building, and the armory is proposed to be demolished, and then the new building is supposed to be put on top. Excuse me, the property was posted with notices as well as being sent to the adjoining property owners as well. And it's pursuant to Maryland Code annotated land use article. The planning director is authorized to grant an administrative adjustment. On July 14th of 2003, the mayor and common council adopted a resolution that gave all the procedures for the administrative adjustment. It says that the applicant bears the burden of persuasion and proof to justify the granting of the administrative adjustment. So as I said, this is a part of a site development plan that did move forward with conditional approval from our planning commission on November 17th, 2022. It also went through the process of an annexation with resolution R2203. The property owner also submitted all of the required water and sewer allocation applications and had the appropriate discussions that needed to in order to move the project forward. There are multiple factors that the zoning administrator can look at, but I'm going to talk about the findings of fact and the conclusion of law. All of the arguments and everything are located in the staff report, should anyone want to talk about that further. But here's the findings of fact and the conclusion of law. The same entity owns this property as well as the adjacent property. The 25-foot drive aisle requirement that they're asking for relief from is typically for a two-way traffic. And in the proposed parking garage, it's only one-way traffic. There's a small amount of light that would be transferred onto other properties beyond the property line. However, those are for non-residential properties. Property zone B business typically do house larger scale developments, and there will be no detrimental effect to any of the public or the adjacent property owners should the administrative adjustment move forward. The staff recommends approval of the administrative adjustment. And on your screen, I hope that you see the location of the property. And we've also have a copy of the site plan. Should you have any questions, we have multiple representatives for the meeting on the call. And I'm here to answer any questions as well.
Thank you. I have no questions at this time. Applicant, if you could give your name and address, if you are intending to speak.
This is Brian Everly with Obrecht Properties for the owner. Address is 9475 Deerco Road, Suite 200 in Timonium, Maryland. Nothing to add to what Andrea said, and I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody should have any.
And I have no questions at all. Do you have any other person providing testimony of the case?
There is someone from CLSI here. I did want to also mention quickly, we did not receive any comments from the public regarding this case.
Okay, thank you.
This is Martin Rickle with CLSI, 439 East Main Street, Westminster. Again, I think Andrea presented the case. We are just here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. I don't really have any questions. I think all the requests are reasonable. Being that the two properties are owned by the same property owner, it seems reasonable that you would have a parking lot area that is used by both properties, and therefore the landscaping between may not be necessary. I also reviewed the plan for the drive aisle width and the movement. It shows that a vehicle can certainly navigate through the parking garage with the I believe it was a 22-foot wide drive aisle and with a one-way direction. And also I concur that adequate lighting, that the minimal amount of lighting traveling over the property line will not affect the adjacent property. The trees that are existing, as well as the location of the building on the adjacent property line, are pretty far away. I believe that's also the service area of that property. So again, I think they are reasonable. If nobody has any comments, I am going to approve the 3 administrative adjustments pursuant to the findings of facts and conclusion of law as provided in the staff report, as well as the staff report comments. And if nobody has any other comments or questions, that is it for this case.
I have no questions or concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. A decision will be put together and provided to you, outlining the approval. And of course, that decision can always be appealed. There's a 30-day period following the decision, but we will get that out to you as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, Andrea, let's move on to case 2303. This is an application by Patrick McGrath. The applicant and property owner was received by the Department of Community Planning and Development requesting approval of 2 administrative adjustments for 71 to 73 West Main Street, Westminster, Maryland, 21157. Andrea?
Thank you. The applicant is requesting an administrative adjustment to zoning ordinance 164-111B and pursuant to 164-11C to allow a reduction in the number of required parking spaces, and also zoning ordinance section 164-112G to allow vehicles using the off-street parking facility to back out directly onto Union Alley. The applicant is requesting the administrative adjustment to modify an existing building for both residential and commercial uses. We received this application on March 1st of 2023. And this, like I said, it's for 7173 West Main Street. The property is Zone CB, which is Central Business Zone, and the property is owned by MBXM Properties. The subject property contains a 2-story building in the front of the property and a 1-story building in the rear, which is currently vacant. The applicant has submitted a simplified site plan to construct a 537 square foot 2-story addition between and connecting the 2 existing buildings. The applicant is proposing 2 executive apartments on the 2nd floor of the existing 2-story building and a commercial or office space in the 1st floor of the existing 2-story building. Let's see here. The property was posted and we did send notices to all the adjoining property owners, as I previously said in the last case, but pursuant to Maryland Code annotated land use article, the planning director is authorized to grant administrative adjustments. And in July 14th, 2003, the mayor and common council did set forth the requirements for administrative adjustment. And hold on just one moment, I'm sorry, that it is the applicant who bears the burden of persuasion and proof to justify the granting of the administrative adjustment. And hold on one moment, I'm sorry. Okay, so the applicant is redeveloping an existing building, and the proposed, as I've already said about the breakdown of the spaces, the applicant did put forward the required water and sewer allocation application for those 2 executive apartments. There isn't a water and sewer application yet for the 1st floor because depending on who that tenant is, that depends on how much water they would need. So that will happen in the future. Once again, the director or the zoning administrator can look at several factors when determining an administrative adjustment. But what I'm here to talk about today are the findings of fact and the conclusion of law. The administrative adjustments that are being requested to allow the reasonable and allowed uses of the CB Central Business Zone to operate at the property. Property is located in the Westminster Historic District, and the primary structure at the property was built in 1871. The property is operated as a commercial use in the past without providing any on-site parking spaces. There are city-owned parking lots in the proximity to the property. 4 new on-site parking spaces are being provided. Due to the size of the lot and the existing development on site, there's very limited open space available, making it impossible to provide the required parking on site. It's not unusual for properties in the historic district to provide, it's not unusual for properties in the historic downtown to provide required on-street parking spaces, requiring a request for the reduction of a number of parking spaces. Union Alley provides access to and acts as a service access for trash and deliveries to several properties in the vicinity and does not have the level of traffic as a primary roadway, much that Main Street does, which the property fronts. The authorizing of the administrative adjustment will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent properties and will not materially impair the imposed of this chapter or the public interest. It is the staff's recommendation that you do approve the administrative adjustments. Just so that you know, we did get a we did get a letter from an adjoining property owner at 40 West Green Street. It is Robert and Mary Ann Klages. It's Klages. They wanted to make sure that their letter was brought into the record, which it has been sent out so that everyone could see it prior to the meeting. But they do believe that their property will be negatively impacted based on the fact of the backing out onto Union Alley. And they do talk about the number of vehicles and talking about oversized vehicles that do access Union Alley. They have a concern about their privacy fence that drivers have to go between the stop sign and Union Alley. And so the letter is available, has been provided to you for your review prior to the meeting, but wanted to make sure that they did talk about that as well as the removal of trash as well. They do believe, like I said, that they disagree with the staff report, that they think that there will be substantial detriment to the property because it is adjacent. So that is, if you have any questions, we also received another call from another adjoining property owner who did talk about also the backing out into Union Alley and did raise concern about that as well.
Thank you. I was able to talk to Mr. Klages, and he did come to the office, and during just daily routine, I was able to talk to him, and I have reviewed his letter. I did speak to the other property owner, the property owner to the north that owns the commercial parking lot. But as of today, I agree, we have not received any official statements from them. And I don't believe they are present tonight either,
No.
in either case. Okay, I have no questions right now. If Mr. McGrath, if you would like to give a presentation. I did see that you were sworn in at the beginning of the meeting, and again, just your name and address and any comments you would like to make.
Yes, thank you. Patrick McGrath, 735 Luca Ball Mill Road, Westminster, Maryland, 21157. I did receive a copy of the letter, and I do understand the property owner's concerns regarding backing out of the limited space onto Union Alley. This is one of the reasons why we designed the parking spaces to the angle that they are on the property, so that when backing out of the property across Union Alley, you are almost going to be backing straight onto Cover Lane if you just continue to go straight. Basically, taking the ability to strike their fence line or their property significantly out of the picture. So I do have some drawings that we did come up with that I have emailed over, if you guys can see where the parking spaces are and how that aligns. So that's not only with the trash, but also with the flow of traffic. So you guys can kind of see right there how it almost goes straight back. So I do acknowledge the property owner's concerns, but I think we have taken them into consideration throughout the simplified site plan, throughout the parking approval. And I think along with that, we have also taken and pushed the trash receptacle and trash collection back further into the property. So when a trash truck does pull in, they will have enough room to back out and not bump into their property or their landscaping. So we already kind of addressed those concerns prior to this, and I think you guys will see that we feel like we've adequately met and exceeded, what their expectations are for this issue.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to provide testimony? I see Danielle is on the call. Is she?
That is my wife.
But no? Okay.
Thank you.
Danielle?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So I did look at the letter, and I do agree with some of the concerns. One of the comments and issues were related to, I guess, commercial vehicles entering the site. From the design, I would think that's rather difficult. If you can explain that a little bit. My understanding is that the site plan is for the residential is primarily the parking space for the residential units, with one really associated with the commercial use. But if you could touch on what type of vehicles you anticipate using the parking spaces.
Yes, so we plan for the majority of these parking spaces to be used for the residents that are going to be in the executive apartments above. We have not applied for a change of use for the property, so there will not be a restaurant located at the property for need of deliveries for food and different things like that. So there won't be large commercial trucks backing in, needing to unload on a regular basis. So I think for that circumstance, it's going to be mainly the residential parking, which is the 3 out of the 4 parking spots that are there required. And one right now, our current proposed tenant is going to be utilizing the space as office space. So there won't be a lot of retail foot traffic or deliveries or any of that taking place in these parking spots. If that answers your question.
It does. And for the dumpster, what type of dumpster is it? Are these going to be individual trash containers? Are you looking at a dumpster to be located? And if it is a dumpster, what size of dumpster are you looking at?
We planned on doing a smaller dumpster. It's about 4x2. Just for the limited amount of space that is going to be here. There's already trash trucks that pick up larger dumpsters up and down Union Alley, specifically for the restaurants located adjacent to the property right next to it. So we know that there's the ability for them to pick up larger size dumpsters. Ours is going to be smaller than that and placed further in to the property than the current dumpsters already located on Union Alley are next to the road.
And is this a front load dumpster that picks up from the front and dumps it, or is it from the side?
This would be a front load dumpster.
Yeah, I guess I'd still have some level of concern of if a vehicle was traveling south or in Union Alley, how they could possibly maneuver to get to the dumpster. It would seem to me the only way, the logical way, is the vehicle traveling north with the dumpster angled in a way, as I think, as you mentioned, where a vehicle could enter forward motion off of Union Alley and back up into Union Alley, or possibly from Clover Alley, was it Clover Lane, potentially, where they're not trying to make a 3-point turn, but they're just moving directly into the site and backing directly out and then moving forward in Union Alley.
Correct. So depending on which way they could pull into the property and pick up and back into Clover Lane. They could come down Clover Lane, go straight across to Union Alley to pick up the trash, and then go out towards Bond Street. Or they could pass Clover back up and do that kind of like a 3-point turn. But I did provide drawings for how I would see the trash being picked up. At this particular moment, the thought was to provide a small front load dumpster for the property. I have not seen the availability of trash pickup for bins, but if that is a possibility, I would have no problem switching over to that and providing trash receptacle totes to be picked up instead.
I just put up also for the main map so that anybody who's watching can see this here is that Clover Lane or Clover Alley, and that you're talking about just kind of backing up. One of the drawings that you showed on your screen was the backing up into this alley to be able to go that way.
Correct. Because of the angle of the parking, the angle of the parking is towards the parking lot. So you can't back straight up into their property where the previous occupants of the property, the way it was situated previously, there was only 2 or 3 parking spots and you could only go straight out. You're not going to be able to do this with where the dumpster is placed, with the angle of the parking that is situated. So the specific way to back out of the property almost aligns perfectly with Clover Lane to give you that extra space. Because one of the concerns is in the letter was that your car length is longer than the proposed street. So, and you're not going to have any room to turn. This does give you a good turning radius and a lot straighter exit out of the property line across Union Alley into Clover Lane.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any more comments or questions. Andrea?
I don't, I just wanted to provide the map. Should
Okay.
someone be watching it and trying to get kind of like a visual of what you're talking about. So
Okay, thank you. I do concur that this building has been in operation for years in multiple uses in the past. If not for the cease of use and the need for a zoning certificate that leads to the simplified site plan, we may not be here tonight. Also, the use is permitted, and this is the historic district. And as we all know, downtown is very difficult to provide parking on site. And there is plenty of parking with public parking on street and also public parking lots within the vicinity to pick up any loss of parking. So with that, I do see that the total required parking is 8, 4 are provided on site, leaving 4. I did look at the property and it did appear to be that 2 parking spaces were provided essentially in the back of the lot where 2 vehicles could pull in. There used to be an old structure there that would keep you from going into the lot, but 2 certainly could have parked there. So with that, I think there should be, I'm going to grant a reduction of 2 parking spaces whereby only 6 are required and the other 2 parking spaces are modified or waived through the administrative adjustment process. So those 2 would be subject to the administrative section for parking spaces. The backing out into the alleyway, again, I concur, this is a minor street or a lesser street than your tip. It's more of a secondary, if not less, and serves as a service alley. It's anticipated and is in current use by several businesses in Westminster for trash pickup, and several locations have vehicles backing out into it. I think the limited number of 4 is not substantial. But with that, I am going to ask that the plan be updated to demonstrate a turning movement of a typical vehicle that will be parking at this location, a visiting location. That should be added to the simplified site plan. I also would like moving to the dumpster location. That was a concern. I did see, Mr. McGrath, which you provided us, showing the dumpster being pushed back a little bit. I do concur that the dumpster has to be relocated and possibly angled to allow easier access to it. And that should be also shown on the simplified site plan. I think furthermore, with it backing out and the dumpster location, I think an administrative adjustment to this is warranted. However, subject to trash vehicles either entering or moving north on Union Alley to get to the trash area, or using Clover Lane to access it and not heading south, whereby a 3-point turn or some unusual maneuvering would have to happen, which certainly would impact, I believe, the adjacent properties. Let's see, and with that, do you have any questions, Mr. McGrath, about those? You're muted. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I do not. I do agree with your statements there, and I do appreciate everything that you guys have put together today.
Thank you. So with that, I am going to approve the administrative adjustments subject to the conditions as stated, and they will be provided in the final decision. And the decision is based on the findings of facts and conclusions of law provided in the staff report, as well as the report itself. And with that, if we have nothing else, this is hereby approved, and I believe, are finished for tonight, unless Andrea, you have anything else.
I have nothing else.
Melissa, Leanne,
Nothing else.
Nope, nothing else.
Danielle, nothing?
Nothing from me, thanks.
Okay. Well, Patrick, Danielle, thank you very much. I appreciate it. You'll be getting that decision from us as soon as we can. And I
Make
hope you have
sure
a
to
good
get
night.
this updated simplified site plan over to you shortly. Thank you very much.
Great. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.